So this is a basic walkthrough of what this little template does, and I think it would be rather much more interesting to see it work. Again, now think about what we just talked about. We have a template which shows us an initial user interface and then executes a number of steps. And it required a data set to be open. So I opened the example data set here to be able to run it. Now let's go to the template directory here. And one way to run templates is to use drag and drop. There are other ways to do it, but I'll use drag and drop for now. This was the one we just looked at. I take it and drop it onto Omics Explorer. And what happens now is that the initial user interface is shown. That is, again, what was specified, among other things, by this file, the description file. So the initial interface is shown, which is basically what is listed here. And it asks me a couple of things. Okay, which annotation do I want to do my t-test for? Let's use the gender annotation here. And we'll do it for the male group. We'll use the less than test direction. And we'll set a Q value cutoff of 0.8, for example. Now again, all of these widgets you see here, all these four, are the ones that were specified by the configuration file and which I accessed from the Python script. When I press OK here, the Python script will start executing. And there we go. The Python script is now finished. And remember now what the Python script did. It performed a statistical test, and when the test was done, it also shows me a heat map and a box plot, which are configured according to the specifications in the template. And I also created a list called discriminating variables, which was sorted so that the Q values were ranked. The smallest Q value, the most significant one, is at the beginning here, and at the end is the least significant one. And I use this one to create the box plot. So this is a box plot for the variable with ID 14, which happens to be the most significant one for this test. So with this tool, you can basically build any sort of plot setup, any sort of data analysis setup. In this first version of templates, not exactly everything in Qlucore Omics Explorer is controllable, but many things are. And one of the most important things that you can control with this is the, let me see here, it's on my other screen. Sorry about that. It's the statistics doc window. So everything you can do in this window, which is your basic interface for data analysis, can be done through the interfaces in templates. And one of the other pieces of news, by the way, in 3.5, if you haven't run that version yet, is that the variance filtering is now placed on its own tab here. So that's a difference from earlier versions. If you want to do variance filtering to a data set, you do that here now. And the statistics window here now focuses on statistics, and variance is the variance filtering. They used to be on the same location earlier. So that's one of the approaches to working with templates. I'll go on with the presentation here. A number of things will be skipped in the presentation for now because I'll show them with the software instead. I'll just mention how to work with templates here, because when you execute a template, that can be done in several different ways. There's the execute template command in the file menu, which allows you to select a template and say run this template. You can use something we call the template browser, which is a simple interface to work with templates. The template browser is intended to be used by regular users, maybe people who don't even bother writing templates themselves. It's designed to be very simple, so you can point out a couple of locations on your file system and allow the access to them, and from those locations the software will scan and try to find all templates files it can find. You can also double-click on a template. It will if Omics Explorer is already running, that template will be executed directly. If Qlucore Omics Explorer is not running, it will be started and the template will be executed. You can also drag and drop a file, which is what I did just a moment ago here to show you. I'll just show you a couple of these examples. We'll skip the double click, but because that's rather self-explanatory. Here in the file menu is something called execute template. This allows you to directly open a template file. So you'll have to point to a location on your disk. I have lots of development stuff on my disk here. Let's see here. There's my... So there's a directory with templates. It lists files with the QC template extension here. So these are the templates. If I want to run this template, for example, plots, I'll just double click on it and it opens here. So what I get here is the initial user interface for that template here. If I press OK here, this is an example of a simple template that does one of the things I mentioned in the beginning here. This just takes the current, which happens to be this one, current plot and creates 3 plots out of it. 1 PCA sample plot, 1 PCA variable plot, and 1 heat map plot. There we go. Here's my PCA variable plot, here's my PCA sample plot, and they are synchronized. And here's my heat map plot, created from the one I had open. So that's one of the ways to execute a template. You can run it by dragging and dropping. You can run it from the template browser, which is the next thing I'm going to show you. The template browser can be started with this button here. It can also be started with the file menu. So there's 2 ways of starting the template browser. And the template browser has one advantage for inexperienced users, is that it lists all the templates that are available in the pointed to locations, which you can set. And when I click on a template here, it will show the initial interface within this box here. So I can directly work with a template from the browser here. This is an excellent way of just testing things. This template is a fun little template I want to show you. Let's close this one. This one takes a data set from the ENCODE database and downloads it. It takes a moment to download it from the FTP server, but then it takes that data and transforms it into a data set that can be read by Omics Explorer. So it takes about a minute or so for this to be downloaded, and there we go, it's downloaded. And here we see another thing that is rather useful, because when you want to do debugging of a template, one of the things you can do from a Python script is to print things to the console window. However, when we are executing, there is no console window. But we do save that information. So if you print something in a template, that printed information actually is saved and displayed after the template has executed. And this is really what happens here, because this is the console log from the FTP download, because the FTP downloader writes texts telling me what it downloads and what it's doing. So all debugging can be done not interactively, but it can be done very simple printouts can be done, and there is another way of running this, which I'll show you in a moment here. I'll just mention again that the template browser, which I could start from here, the template browser that I just used to run this template here, that one is configured in the file menu. I'll show you the configurations here. And if you go to File, to Preferences, Templates, here's the 2 paths. They happen to be pointing to the same place right now that are configured. So these paths and everything below them, all folders below them, will be searched for templates and displayed in the template browser. Also, if I want to change the Python installation, I can do that here. So I can actually point to another installation of Python if I want to. There's also a checkbox here, which I don't have checked at the moment, security. There's something called TCP port here. Those are advanced settings. I'll not go into depth on them at the moment, but this is the default port we are using because the Omics Explorer software is actually communicating with the executing Python instance, and they're using a TCP port, which means they're communicating using internet traffic within the same computer. So they're talking to each other. And if you want to configure that port to something else, you can do that here. It might be needed because other softwares might be colliding with that port, for example. The security checkbox here, I'll just mention it. I won't go into detail on that at the moment, but the communication between Omics Explorer and Python is secured in the way that there is something we call a session key used between them, so that no one can control your instance of Omics Explorer without you knowing it, so to speak. In my case, I have security disabled at the moment here because I've been doing some debugging. But basically, you can control everything regarding templates here that you need to control. Now, one more thing about writing templates here. Let's say that I want to create my own template or write my own template. What do I need to do? Well, to create a template, you need to write a Python script. The easiest way to get started with that is probably to just take one of our standard templates that we ship with the program and play around with it. And the templates that we ship with the program, they are, as you saw, rather well documented and commented, so they are quite easy to get started with. If you take one of those and modify it, that's basically the easiest way to get started with this. The description file also needs to be present, so the software knows what to do with the template and whether or not to show a user interface for it. And then you take the files and you just compress them and you rename them. So let's just take the template that we looked at before and play around with it a little bit. We do, however, need to rename it first so that we don't have a collision with the naming here. So let's see here. I go to this window here, and our previous template was called t-test, so we called this one t-test2. Oh, there's something open. Oh, sorry. This one needs to be closed as well, otherwise I can't rename that. So let's rename this into t-test2 and go into it. There we go. Let's take this script, and the only thing I want to do now, for now, because I'm debugging something, I want to just print a message on the screen. So if we end up here with number of variables greater than 0, I want to just print the text success. Like this. Oops. And in the same way, if I fail to have any variables left after the t-test, so I can't present any plots, I want to print the word failure. Like this. There we go. Now I've modified the template because I've modified the Python script. So let's take this and create a template out of it. What I do then is that I'll take these two files that are needed. Now, the user interface actually uses this image as well, so this image folder needs to be compressed with it. I'll just take these three things and compress them. And I'll create a zip file. I'm using 7-zip, which is a very common utility on the Windows platform. You can use any utility you want as long as it creates zip files. That's important. So I'll take these three things. It's called t-test2.zip. Let's rename it into t-test2.qc template, like this. There we go, ttest2.qc template. Let's open my Omics Explorer here, and let's open a data set, because this requires a data set. If I didn't supply a data set here, since the template actually requires a data set, it will ask me for a data set to open. So I'll take that and drop it on here. So now I get the same questions again. I'll take leukemia subtype this time, TLL, I'll keep this one, 0.6. There we go. Now we're executing the template, setting up the statistics, showing the statistics window, and showing those two plots that we had initially. Now the output from my previous execution of a template is still showing here, because we showed that. Let's see here. Oh, I lost that information. Now I know what's wrong. Sorry about that. I'll have to restart Omics Explorer because I did something wrong here. Sorry about that. There we go. I'll open a data set and I'll execute my template. I'm sorry about that. There we go. I'll execute my template and just run it. And remember, I put a print statement failure inside my inside my template code, and that print statement now shows here. And I modify the template, I put that print statement in it, and it shows up there. Let's do something else with the template. Let's take my template, and just to make sure that it is changed, let's do something a little bit nastier to it. Now, the user interface has this function, open variables window. Let's say that I made a typo here. I made a mistake. I typed Windows there instead of window. So let's create a template out of this and see what happens. Let's make a mistake and see how the debugging feature can help us here. So I create the template by creating a zip file. I rename that zip file to QC template. There we go. So now it's renamed. And of course, we want to run Omics Explorer. So let me just bring Omics Explorer up again. And there we go. Omics Explorer is now open. I'm taking my QC template. I'm dragging and dropping that onto Omics Explorer. Oops. Sorry. There we go. I misnamed it by mistake. So if I take this file now and drop it onto Omics Explorer, in this case I didn't have a dataset open. So an open dataset of type GE data is required. Please open one. Okay, I'll open one. So I'll use the example dataset again. There's the test dataset, and it's open. Now, remember, I put on purpose an error inside the script. Let's see what happens when I try to execute this. There you go. Our application interface has been written in a way so that if you have an error, it will terminate execution. And when execution is terminated, you'll get the error log from Python shown on the screen. And you can export that to a file, which can be useful if you want to have help. If you, for example, write your own template and call support, we have very much use of this. Another thing you can do here is, of course, to try to interpret what happened here. What this says is that attribute error. Qlucore Omics Explorer GUI object has no attribute open variables windows. What I do then would probably be to go to the. Do I still have the manual here? There you go. I'd go to the manual and find the Omics Explorer GUI, and I'll have to read it up from the class reference here. Let's see here. It has no attribute open variables windows. Let's see here. Open variable. This is a rather big object, of course, because this is really big. It's the entire. Oh, you can close up things here. You can open samples. Def open variables window. Let's see here. Oh, I typed open variables windows. Ah, that's the bug. So you can use this to at least simple debugging with it. So what we've seen today is templates executing. We've seen templates do things. We've talked about how to configure templates, a little bit on how to write them yourself, and how to do simple debugging with them at least. There is more advanced ways of doing debugging with templates. They are mentioned in the manual. You can actually run templates commands interactively from a Python prompt as well. I won't be showing that today, but that's a good way of learning the commands that you can use. And a very good way of learning the commands is to just explore the example templates that we ship with the program. So thank you very much. This has been rather fun for me to show this exciting new feature to you. I hope you thought this was useful too. Is there anyone with any questions? If you do have a question, please type it in the chat window, because it's easier for me to answer you if I see it typed. If I switch on everyone's sound, it's going to be very noisy for me. So it's easier if you type your questions. Anyone? I hope this is a feature that you'll find useful and that you'll explore new ways of using it. I'm very excited on what our users are going to do with this. So I'm certain that people will come up with uses that I haven't thought of before. Anyone? If you try this out, if you have any questions or any support issues or want to report something about templates, please contact our support email. And I should say also that as I said, many features of Omics Explorer, but not all, are available in templates now. So you can control most things, but some things are still not there. And if you run into something you need for the thing you are developing, or if you want to have help on how to get started or to do something in templates, don't be afraid to just send us an email at support@qlucore.com, because we'll help you out if you want to do this yourselves. If there's nothing else, well, thank you very much for today, and see you on the next webinar. Thank you very much.